The living room light hums softly. A tired yellow glow spilling across the floor where a child sits, legs crossed, arranging crayons in a perfect line. Not drawing anymore, just arranging. Quietly, precisely. Like maybe this time, if it's done right, someone might notice them. The front door opens. Laughter fills the house, bright, alive, and whole. But it isn't for them. It's for someone else. The favorite one, or the louder one, or the one who always gets noticed. No one says anything cruel, no one shouts. They just don't see them. Not in the way a child needs to be seen. And that kind of absence, it's louder than any scream. That's how some children learn that love has rules, that attention has to be earned, that being quiet, helpful, and undemanding might keep you safe, but it won't make you chosen either. So, they stop showing their drawings, stop asking to be tucked in. By 9, they have already learned how to disappear in plain sight, and no one even notices. There are no bruises, no chaos, just a quiet erosion, one invisible moment at a time. Because a child learns quickly which parts of them are welcome and which are not. They hide the rest. They become easy, predictable, polite. A version of themselves that's easier to love. Years later, the same child grows into an adult who sits across from people they care about, listening intently, offering comfort, holding space. They're called kind, empathetic, such a good listener. But no one asks how they're doing, and they don't say, not because they don't want to, but because somewhere deep down, they don't believe it would matter. They have become everyone's safe place, everyone's helper, but no one's home. Always available, they are always agreeable, they are always fine. And people call it compassion, they call it strength, but underneath the calm smile is an exhaustion, the quiet ache of someone who never learned how to say, I need something too. Bad parenting doesn't always look violent. Sometimes it's just emotional absence. The small daily dismissals that teach a child their feelings are inconvenient, that love must be earned and affection is conditional. Maybe the parents weren't cruel. They are just preoccupied or distant or always busy. Maybe one parent was cold, structured, unreachable. One sibling got warmth and laughter, the others got expectations and silence. You could get an A plus and hear you can do better. Win something and get a half smile. Cry and be told to stop being dramatic. So you try harder, speak softer, smile longer, thinking maybe one day you'll finally be enough to be chosen. But that day never comes. And so you grow up believing love is fragile, something you can lose if you're not careful. You learn to perform connection instead of feeling it, to give endlessly, hoping someone might notice the emptiness inside you. As an adult, you find yourself in friendships that drain you, in relationships where you give more than you receive. At work, you're the dependable one, praising for stability, overlooked for leadership. You never set boundaries. You apologize when you're not wrong. You fear conflict like it's danger itself. And when people pull away, you blame yourself because that's what emotional neglect teaches you. It teaches you to turn your pain inward and call it responsibility. There's a sadness that doesn't always show on the face. It's quiet, it's heavy, a fatigue that lives in the bones. You don't cry about it, you just live with it. Because no one ever taught you that being cared for was something you could ask for. And yet, none of this was your fault. No child should have to earn love. No child should mistake attention for worth. But when you grow up unseen, you start to erase yourself piece by piece. You learn to read people before you speak, to sense moods before words. You learn that safety comes from being small. So, you overfunction. You anticipate everyone's needs. You hold space for their pain and call it love. But when it's your turn, you shrink away. You say, "I'm fine," and you disappear politely. That's what emotional neglect does. It trains you to serve, not to receive, to be needed but never known, to confuse being indispensable with being loved. But they're not the same thing, because being everyone's anchor often means you're drowning quietly, and one day something breaks, gently. Not a breakdown, just a moment of truth. Maybe while reading a message you don't want to answer, or sitting alone, feeling the familiar weight of emptiness, and something inside whispers, "I'm tired of earning love." For the first time, you don't rush to fix it. You don't perform gratitude or pretend you're okay. You just sit with it, raw, uncomfortable, and real. And that's where healing begins. Not in grand awakenings, but in small acts of honesty. You start asking yourself, why do I say yes when I mean no? Why do I feel guilty for setting boundaries? Why do I apologize for existing? And slowly, you begin to see the pattern. You were raised in a home where love was quiet and selective, where feelings were too much, where your voice was optional. Of course, you become a people pleaser. Of course, you feared being disliked. Of course, you mistook being useful for being loved. But it doesn't have to stay that way. So, you start small. You say no to something you don't want to do, and don't explain further. The world doesn't collapse. You tell someone gently, "I feel unseen sometimes." Your hands shake, but you feel lighter. You start writing again, not to be perfect, but to be real. You start hearing your own voice again, and little by little, the performance begins to peel away. Not all at once. Healing never happens like that, but slowly. You begin to realize that parenting doesn't end in childhood. It continues in how you speak to yourself, how you comfort your own pain, how you protect the child still living within you. You weren't broken, you were conditioned. And now you're learning to recondition yourself. Because bad parenting doesn't just create pain, it creates patterns, and patterns can be rewritten. There are still moments when that old voice whispers, "Don't be too much, be easy." But now you answer it. "I don't have to be easy to be loved." That sentence becomes your freedom. Because emotional intelligence isn't just understanding others. It's understanding the parts of you that once went unheard. And maybe that's the real healing. Learning to become the parent you never had. Not for someone else, for yourself. To sit with your discomfort, to validate your feelings, to whisper to your younger self, "I see you, you never needed to earn this." That's how the cycle ends. Not with anger, but with compassion. Not with blame, but with truth. Because we don't become whole by being perfect. We become whole by being honest. And maybe for the first time, you're not disappearing anymore. You're beginning to exist fully, imperfectly, and honestly. And that is more than enough.